So let's see from the Gospel of Acts. We're going to read from chapter 18, then Acts chapter 20. This is the Apostle of Grace, the Apostle Paul, writing this. Very, very interesting. From verse 1, chapter 18, verse 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and he came unto them. Paul came unto to Aquilas with her husband. In verse 2, as we see the husband and wife ministry that they have here. Verse 3, and because he was of the same craft or the same profession, he abode with them and wrought or worked. For by their occupation they were tent makers. Paul was a contractor, a builder, house builder, tent builder. He was building. So Aquila and Priscilla with his wife, they were also in the same craft with the same profession. Verse 4, and he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath, and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks, that is the Jews and the Gentiles. And when Silas and Timotheus were come from Macedonia, Paul was praised in his spirit, and testified to the Jews that Jesus was the Christ, the Messiah. Particularly verse 6. And when they opposed themselves and blasphemed what Paul was teaching and saying about Christ, Paul shook his raiment, his clothes, and possibly his feet and his shoes, and said unto them, your blood be in your heads. I am clean. From henceforth I will go unto the Gentiles. And he departed thence, or from there, and entered into the house of a man's house named Justus, one that worshipped God, whose house joined hard to the synagogue. And Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord Jesus with all his house. And many of the Corinthians hearing believed and were baptized. Now, let's go back to verse 6. Of course, verse 6 is connected to verses 1 all the way to verse 5. And when they heard the message that Paul was talking about Jesus, and you know for sure, Paul was standing in the synagogue of the Orthodox Jews, he being a Jew himself, once blasphemer, persecutor of those who believed in the Messiah, the Christ, or those who were followers of the Nazarene. Now that he became instrumental in the hands of God, he decided to go back to his people, the Jewish people. And constantly, even though God told Paul, look, the people will not listen to you, go to the Gentiles. So Paul was known as an apostle to the Gentiles. Constantly Paul was going towards the Jews, synagogue to synagogue, every time. And of course, it was getting him into more trouble. And God knew that the Jewish people would not listen to him. He should have listened and followed the instruction God gave to him. Now, we preachers sometimes we do that. We're overzealous. And we're not paying attention to the instruction and the direction that God is giving to us. And we put ourselves in trouble, in harm's way. So Paul will constantly, anytime he went to any city or any region, the moment he landed there, the first thing Paul will be looking for synagogue building. Because he knew Sabbath, the Sabbath day will be coming, and Saturday, he will go there now and try to reach out to his people. So here now, as he arrived in this region, and he went again, he was in the synagogue on the Sabbath day. In verse 6 says, and when they opposed, they heard the word about, especially about this Messiah, the Christ, that Jesus was the Christ, he was the Messiah. And the Jews couldn't connect that point. It was hard for them to believe it. So what did they do? They opposed themselves. They thought that they were opposing Paul and God, but they were opposing themselves. So if you as a sinner, every time you hear the gospel, you shrugged it off, you kick it away, you say, I don't believe it, I have my own opinion, I don't need this Jesus, I am going to do it by myself, I have my own religion, I have my own church, this and that and that, all the excuses you're doing, you are opposing yourself. You are a judge to yourself, and you are a condemnation to yourself. And you will go and barbecue yourself in hell without mercy from God, if you trample over the mercy and the salvation that God has given us through Jesus Christ. So get your things right. Amen. Save your skin.